Hello and welcome back to the channel. Amber here, and today I want to touch on a couple things regarding the royal family of House Trakand, Morgase's backstory, and how all of that affects Rand al'Thor. There will be important book background information in here, so here's your big spoiler warning. And of course, I also want to touch on some things I'm really looking forward to and that I'm hoping will be looped in during this season. As always, if you'd like to keep in touch, you can find me on Discord, Instagram, and Blue Sky. And if you'd like to help support the channel, consider becoming a Patreon member or YouTube member, or make sure you like and subscribe. So let's get into it. One of the things I'm looking forward to most about the inclusion of Morgase Trakand is that the series has an opportunity to drop some pretty big truth bombs into the story in terms of parental reveals for Rand al'Thor. And Queen Morgase's backstory holds the keys to a lot of intriguing reveals for Rand. And from everything I've seen leading up to season 3, it looks like we're going to be spending a lot of time building him up as this central figure. And Morgase, despite having a really great backstory of her own, could work as a device to support Rand's narrative. So let me explain. Morgase is the queen of Andor, the richest and most powerful nation in the Wheel of Time. But the events during the Succession War in which she won the Lion Throne has huge ties to Rand's parentage. If it's been a while since you've read the books, here's a short refresher. So Morgase Trakand was a really shrewd politician, and she also had the benefit of training at the White Tower. She wasn't born into power. She actually had to claim the throne. And her story begins where another character's story ends. Because in 972 NE, the reigning queen of Andor, Morgase Mantir, died. But Mordrallen's death had a few layers of intrigue attached to it, because Mordrallen's daughter was supposed to succeed her, and she would have taken the throne if she hadn't gone missing. Now, the big plot twist here is that Rand is actually the biological grandchild of Queen Mordrallen, and the missing daughter heir was actually Rand's mother, Tigraine Mantir. You know, the woman who died during the Aiel War. Tam al'Thor takes the baby home to the Two Rivers, and the rest is history. And personally, I adore this part of the story. The Wheel of Time does have some undertones of political intrigue and parental reveals that are sadly just lightly touched on in the books. But in my opinion, the TV show has a really fun opportunity to let these moments really sink in. And here's why I think they might spend a little more time building on these moments. Season 1 had some mixed reviews from some of the very vocal hardcore fans, but there was a specific scene that I'd wager was pretty universally loved, and that was the birth of Rand al'Thor on the slopes of Dragonmount, also called the Blood Snow. And it's a mix of a lot of elements that really speaks to viewers. It showcased Tigraine Mantir after she left the royal palace behind and was called by prophecy to wander in the Aiel Waste and become a Maiden of the Spear, one of the most elite warriors in the entire world. She's fighting her way through trained soldiers, all while in the throes of child labor. It's emotionally impactful, but the stunt work is done really well too. I could see the series wanting to really capitalize on this beloved moment. So I think it makes perfect sense that season 3 revisits it, and we've seen confirmation of that within the teaser trailer, where it looks like Rand's biological father and Aiel Man can be seen mourning holding the body of Tigraine. So it also makes sense to assume the story of Rand's parentage will come full circle this season. This would also explain why the show has held back on the introduction of Morgase and her backstory until the timing for the big reveal is ready, which is now, season 3. So my guess is this season we see Rand enter Ruidian travel back in time via the eyes of his ancestors and see his father mourning the death of his mother. But also, we see the other side of the saga play out via the story of Morgase. Parallel storylines that converge, with a big reveal focusing on the death of Mortrell and Mantir and the disappearance of her daughter Tigraine. I think a plot twist like this, if done right, would really elevate the season, and I think it might happen because this season looks very centralized around Rand and his journey and the things that will propel him towards leadership. And in regards to the books, Robert Jordan was a big fan of what he labeled the Game of Houses. There's a lot of focus on political machinations, succession plots, and mysterious ancestry. And if all of this sounds familiar to another popular fantasy series called A Game of Thrones, it should, because Robert Jordan introduced it first, but George R.R. Martin made it a pop culture icon. Now Prime Video has the opportunity to really give the Wheel of Time's Game of Houses the spotlight it deserves. When you start to look deep at the blood relations of the characters, things in the Wheel of Time get really twisted and confusing because while the books do make mentions of it, it never fully becomes a focal point. For example, Rand has a half brother out there in the world, and it's a topic that is, for the most part, glazed over. But I think the show could add a little more emotional payoff to these types of things in a way that longtime book fans would really enjoy. The show obviously doesn't have a ton of time to do this, but a sprinkling of it would really win me over. There's so much that could be mentioned or touched on. One example is that not only did Tigraine go missing, but Mordrellin's son Luke also goes missing, and he later shows up to be the hybrid amalgamation of two men and ends up killing his sister's husband, aka Rand's bio dad. Not only that, but before Tigraine goes missing, she married a man named Terengale Domadrid, aka Moiraine Domadrid's half brother. Not only that, but Terengale ends up remarried to Morgase after the disappearance of Tigraine and is Elaine Trakand's father. But Terengale ends up dying in a hunting accident, which was actually a political assassination by Tom Merrilin. Not only that, but Tom Merrilin was actually the lover of Queen Morgase, and do you see where I'm going with this? All of the intrigue and political machinations are right there for the taking this season. And while I'd argue it doesn't make sense to make this the central theme of the story, I'm really hoping for a sprinkling of it, especially in regards to Rand. The Wheel of Time, for all its tropes, did a lot to influence other fantasy series, and it's why I'd say it should be required reading material for fans of the genre. So let me know what you think. Are there some intriguing moments from the books that you think would really fit well for the TV show this season? Any familial ties that you would love to see play out on screen? Drop it in the comments section. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and to not miss out on other videos, like and subscribe, and I'll see you back next time.